Hello out there in podcast land. Welcome to Beer League in the Get Off My Lawn studios. And we're sitting here right now and we have a whole bunch of great things going on. We have, first thing let's say, introduce Greg. Hey, Greg, how you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Here we are again.
Here we are, right? I just came home. Rushed home. We had a baseball game. We got tuned up here, Greg. We didn't do too well today.
Hey, you can't win them all, right? That's a big rival that you had tonight.
I tried something different, and it kind of went right down on me. It didn't do too well. The idea was right, but you know what? We played a juggernaut, one of the best teams in the Middle Tennessee area, the middle school, and they just tattooed us. They hit us hard. We made a couple boots, and it happens, you know. Hey, listen, the kids had fun. I got everybody in the game, so that's a good thing, you know.
Hey, that's really important.
Right? Exactly. That was tough, especially when you have a roster of 23 kids.
And only nine positions.
9 positions. So it's
that's
like
rough.
Every day I actually beat myself up. How do I get kids into the game? You know, sometimes you're like, we got blown out. Well, it's a good thing because we got everybody in the game.
There you go.
And if we're blowing someone out, we're like, all right, cool, get everybody in the game, you know. But it was one of those things, and it was bittersweet. You know, getting the kids in the games and kids that don't get enough at bats, and then kids that did get at bats, and one kid put it off the fence here. On our team, we did really well, but hey, it happens. It happens. You know,
you went into development mode.
I did. I'm always development mode. Mm-hmm. I'm always development mode. We really didn't play with the development that we played with, but we were scared, and the kids were bigger than me. The kids on the other team were bigger than me.
Oh, well, that makes it tough.
Yeah, well, it is. It is. You know, it really is. You know, it's amazing when the age of like 13 and 14 happened, and the separation of that age group from 12, 13, 14 is a monster difference. You know, in puberty, it's a serious thing, and your kids just become men. And like I look at some of our kids, and they still got the braces on, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" You know.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a mismatch there at age 13.
Hey, it happens though. You know, and the kids battle, though, so I'm okay with it. The kids battle, they didn't give up, and they still had fun. So that's what I'm at with it.
Right.
So hey, we got some really cool guests on today. You know, Greg. First of all, we got a great guest right here. We have Dr. Jean Linscott. Right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, Dr. Jean. And then we also have Dr. Kenneth Routh, right? Is that how it is said?
That's perfect, but call me Ken now.
Ken. All right, Ken. All right. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. And I know you guys have a book, and this is why I guess, to get your perspective on this whole thing is you guys wrote a book of what is the goal. And that's probably the best line, because I know we talk about it on youth sports of hockey and baseball. What is the goal? What is the bottom line with this? This is amazing how we found a book on it, and you guys were the authors. So, and it was like, this is something that we'd love to get on the show.
Yeah, this is something we have been excited about for a while. We appreciate you guys coming on here. And you wrote this book back in 2024, so it's a pretty fresh book. And it's called, the subtitle is The Truth About the Youth Sports Industry.
I love it.
And that we thought that was great because, things have changed a lot since we were playing ball. And it's really gotten crazier and crazier, it seems, by the year. So what was it that made you want to write a book? And particularly, this is a lot of soccer perspective tonight that we're talking about.
Jean, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first, and then you can add to it. We are parents of 3 kids who all loved being active and moving from really the day they could walk. And we had enjoyed sports very much growing up in high school and Ken in college. Our families were all really involved in sports. And we soon learned, as our kids got further along into their sports careers, they all started when they were in kindergarten, we soon began to learn that there was something very different and probably very wrong with what was going on in the youth sports industry today. And it was hard to make sense of it. As you got further in, you knew things were very complicated, and there were a lot of factors that were really outside of our control, and were making things much more complicated and probably doing a lot more harm than good for many of the youth involved in these sports across the board. So soccer, hockey, baseball, you name it. Our kids played just about all of the sports between the three of them. And so when we got to the end of our youth sports parent journey, as our last one was recruited for college, we decided that we had spent so much time talking about this as a couple, trying to figure out, doing research, trying to figure out what was best for our kids and what on earth had happened to the sports world that we knew as kids. And so we decided that we would give back to the parents who were going to go after us and see if we could share some of our insight that might help them make some good decisions for their families along the way if they chose to participate in what youth sports looks like now.
I love that. That's kind of what we're thinking.
That's
here.
exactly why we're sitting here right now in this Get Off My Lawn studios. It is amazing that people do feel the same way about this, and how much. I mean, now, Jean, how old are your kids now?
Our oldest is 29. Our middle daughter is 26, and our youngest son is 22.
Wow! So it's at the end, they're done doing it, and you just sit back and go, "Wow!" All the road trips, the conversations with friends, and you sit there. I'm sure with Ken, and you go, "How much money did we spend on this whole trip?" I mean, it is a. I mean, you have three, and I'm sure they played some high level sports too. And then you go, wow, how much did it just put us back? Not even put us back, but you know, I always have these questions, and I'm going to ask you a question too on this one, if you guys can answer it. You know, some people always say, you know, hey, it was well worth it. You know, because I made some really good friends on the way. Or some people go, you know what, that was a lot of money, and now my kid is not going to college because we could have saved that money for college on him. What do you think the outcome on the whole perspective of it as a family side of it? And you already went through it. So what's some of your perspectives on that?
I suppose we feel that we didn't have much choice in the matter.
Okay, all right.
The kids were quite athletic, excuse my immodesty, and what options do you have at this point? I mean, at some point, rec is just not going to be that exciting for a kid that has some natural talent and some ambition. And so we ended up kind of by default in the travel club system, but it didn't take long for us to recognize just how many faults there are with it. I mean, there is no developmental gain from a U12 team traveling and doing a tournament. I mean, you know, they would be better off doing extra practices on the basics. And the amount of money that you can spend on one of these tournaments is absolutely mind-boggling. So along the way, I guess you could describe it as, maybe holding our noses is a little too strong, but sort of looking at each other and periodically reminding ourselves that the system was absolutely crazy, but what other choices did we really have?
Oh, I see that too. I see that a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, cut you off, Gene. Go ahead.
I think I would add to what Ken said. I think, you know, we looked at our family and we looked at our friends, and then we looked at the national trends when we really started to get into this research. I think for our family, it was probably a very clear mix of a lot of benefits and a fair amount of harm. Mm-hmm. I think that was pretty true for most of the people that we knew who went through these different sports clubs together. Obviously, there's a handful or a small minority of kids for whom it works quite well. Great friends, great scholarship. Maybe they go on and play on an Olympic or professional level or something like that. But for the majority of the country, the majority of families can't afford to participate in this. So it's become a very exclusive model of sports that arguably doesn't care much about the development, health, and well-being of the children involved in it.
Well, I want to.
It's a business model.
Yeah, and you call it the youth sports industry, or the YSI, which is a perfect term. But just to give some context, 27 million kids in the U.S. play youth sports from age 6 to 17. And 6, that's a lot of them start before 6.
Yeah, I know.
That's about 55% of the population. And there's about 14 million kids that play soccer. I mean, that's a huge number. It's one of the more popular because at the beginning, there's a lower cost of entry, right? I mean, you don't have to get as much gear as lacrosse or drive as far because it's very close to everybody. There should be options. So you get in early. But then by high school, it goes down to about 870,000 kids playing, both girls and boys, in high school. So it shrinks a lot, but that's still a huge number. Yeah. But what they're finding, what the statistics are saying, is that about, of all sports, 70% of kids quit by age 13. Mm-hmm. And that's always been kind of a level when you start to maybe get other interests. But there's a lot more pressure on people now, the family, the kids themselves. And I want to get into, the psychological side of it with a good doctor, because she's a clinical child psychologist. And so she's got just an incredible resource of her experience, I think, of over 30 years to kind of weigh in on kids. But I coach rec soccer. And my kid's 11, and I love it. I think rec soccer is great. Seth and I, both of our kids, also play hockey. His son plays baseball. He's 13. My son's 13. And then, of course, you raised a dancer, right? So you went through the whole dance,
the dance world. Yeah, oh boy.
But she's off in college now. But give us an overview, kind of the pay to play in the soccer world. People will jump in. There's something, at least on the East Coast and down south, called soccer shots, where you can start at preschool and people come in and you have some college kids, and it's a fun thing. They get to get outside and the kids like it, and they kind of get hooked on soccer, and then you go to rec. But the pay to play is something that's pretty widely known as an issue right now. And so we don't necessarily call hockey pay to play, but it's the same concept, right? It's the club, it's the private travel. But tell us a little bit about your experience, how you got into the pay to play soccer world. Was it super early, or did you wait until teenage years? How did that really get started for you?
Well, they did get in pretty early, even before the teams were traveling, and then by U11 they were already going to one overnight tournament, and then by the time you get to U12 there's a pretty significant travel component. But it was part of this journey that various red flags started being raised. With the second child, she was on this U11 team that finished 5th in the league within Oregon. And the coach then announces that we have to go to a tournament in Las Vegas. And the parents are sort of like, for once, kind of like, well, why do we have to go to a tournament in Las Vegas? I mean, a little bit of pushback for a change. And, he kind of slipped up here. He said, well, in order to find competition. And it was like, well, we came in 5th in the Oregon League. It looks like we have enough competition. It had nothing to do with competition. Eventually he explained, well, if we don't go to their tournament, they don't come to our tournament. So, and the tournament made the club a lot of money. So it ends up being very much about the money. And then you start learning that the club's literally get kickbacks from the designated hotels that you have to stay at.
That's just the old state of play that we have with hockey. Now, were your coaches pressuring the families to do this? And if someone said no, did they throw them off the team? Or is it almost like, well, I can't make it this tournament. Well, you're not going to make the team anymore. Was it almost like a bullying situation or a pressure situation from the coaches out during this time?
Oh, I think there was a lot of pressure. I mean, one time might be okay if you just, had an impossible conflict. But as a basic rule, you were expected to go. And if one player didn't go, they would just bring up a different player from either the B team or from the age group below. So by goodness, they would go.
Yeah,
because there's no way to prevent.
Yeah, they want to jump on and say, hey, look, I made a chance to go play on the A team now. Now,
right.
also, too, I'm sure you had pressure from the other parents, too. They're like, hey, well, this is great. We get to go to Vegas. And you're like, and to play soccer? We're not playing soccer. The kids are playing soccer. And then you always hear the line, oh, it's a great experience. The kid wants to go. Not at 11. They have no idea where the hell they're going at 11,
Gene, I think that one's for you.
Most kids know that travel is exciting. They'd be happy to go, right? But obviously they can't pay for themselves. And the parents, there's a lot of pressure from within the parent team community, especially if you have one of the talented players on the team, and they don't want that player to miss out because heaven forbid that we lose a game, and there's a lot of pressure. But we also did have occasionally a rare coach within this pay-to-play system who had already proven, in this example, proven himself and knew the bigger picture in this industry already and actually gave us parents a vote. That happened once in the youth sports industry for all of our kids, I believe, because he knew that the kids could be developed just as well locally, and he could find plenty of ways to increase the intensity of their training and their competition, even if we stayed local, even within their practices. But that would be the exception and not the rule. The rule was the more we travel, the more opportunity for clubs to grow bigger, to earn more, and to have the more prestige, to bring in more players and families. Would you say that was a fair representation, Ken?
Yes, and I think at this point, pretty much every national sports organization for just about every sport has put out guidelines for how much practice the kids should be doing, in ratio to number of games. And the younger the ages, there should be more practice in between each game. And these travel tournaments just run completely ripshod over this. You go and you play a bunch of games. You don't practice in between. So the kids just make the same mistakes over and over again. And it's really quite interesting that you have the national organizations putting out these recommendations, and then every travel club that I know of just ignores them.
Well, that's interesting. One of our guests, Sean Murray, he's a hockey coach, and he was touting, some people were complaining that maybe there weren't enough games. There was only 50 games or something in the hockey season. Now, hockey season's long. It goes from August to March. But he did cite a statistic that says, the practices lead to, I think it was like 12 times as much development as a game. And so you can get a lot more out of it. It's not necessarily as fun for the kids, but it really is where you make the difference from game to game. And if you're just cramming in a bunch of tournaments and going here and there just to keep up relations with your other clubs, your counterparts 3 states away, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But one of the things I really enjoyed about your book was you talked about elite branding, elite with a capital E. And I think it's got a couple different connotations, and we can talk about the access to sports with it's become so expensive that it's really for elite income earners. But as far as people who try to say they are elite, it's almost a joke now. And Seth got into it with a guy on Facebook not too long ago with an elite hockey team. But everybody's
so
got
elite.
Everybody's got to be
Premier.
elite. What does elite mean? Who defines elite, and what are these clubs doing to try to brand themselves to differentiate as the top club in the city or what have you?
Yeah, I mean,
That's yours,
Gene,
Sam.
you
No,
want to do
that's-
it, Gene?
That's all you.
Well, I think that in a basic sense, there are many people in the U.S. who want to constantly remind themselves that they're part of the elite, as they've defined it. And so it's important to them to have their kid playing in an elite club. And often it means absolutely nothing. It just means that the club has seized upon the term elite. But there was a time earlier in the development of travel sports where on any given weekend, one of those weekends where, the kids, the high school kids and even the junior high school kids can realistically travel to a tournament where there might have been one truly significant tournament going on someplace in the country, only one. And they might, with some justification, although I still hate the term, call themselves an elite tournament. But if you look carefully today, on any given weekend, there can be, 6 elite tournaments going on, all of which are claiming college coaches are coming to scout. But if you actually read the fine print, they can now put a college coach on the list of people who are supposedly attending the tournament if those coaches are supposedly going to be watching videotape, which I suspect is just not true. And so how can you have 6 tournaments going on at the same time, all of which are supposedly elite? And yet the term, people just use the term, I guess the parents, it takes some time for people to develop a suspicion about it, I guess.
I think it's a catchword for a lot of people, too. Like, oh, well, my kid's on the elite organization.
Yeah.
And an organization is going, well, if we throw on an elite, we can charge more. Why not? And I think that's exactly what happens. I mean, you guys are thinking the same way, too, aren't you?
Yes. Well, and can you speak to the number of national championships too, and how that's evolved?
Yeah, well, even in soccer, there's now multiple national championships at the youth level. I think in other sports, including perhaps baseball, but also volleyball, are there not many supposed national championships?
Absolutely. It is just, again, what region you're in and if what company is running the tournament. And it is amazing. Like, oh, this is the elites of the nationals and the championships. And you're like, wait, wasn't that last week?
Yes, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I suppose some of it comes down to wanting to tell family, relatives, neighbors that, my kid played in an elite tournament in San Diego last weekend, or my kid, won regionals or won the national championship. And obviously most people, especially if they're part of the older generation, they probably are actually pretty impressed with that because we didn't have youth national championships when we were kids for the most part. And then additionally, they probably can't imagine that there's actually 12 to 15 of them in any given sport or something, and that it doesn't,
That's great because I know I just got a text message from I'm going to say it, Perfect Game Baseball, and your son is invited to the All-Star team in Macon, Georgia, or whatever, someplace in Georgia, and I'm laughing because they send that out to a lot of people, and there's people that actually buy into it, and they're like, well, my kid got the call. No, he didn't. Everyone got the call.
How much does it cost to go down to Macon?
That's it. Because it's also like, I mean, with soccer, you're saying too, it's like, we have this elite coach here too, and it's like a showcase. So, but if you pay money for this showcase, you get to meet this possibility that this coach can take your kid to college. So I think these organizations are playing that game off the parents. And like you said, I mean, it's almost like those scams, like the guys that call overseas and they try to scam you out of money, like the old, they always do the old people and stuff. And they're like, well, if we do it to 1,000 and 10 of them, fall for it, hey, we're making money.
I think that I agree with you. I think there are some very significant scam elements to the youth sports industry. I think that ID camps, college ID camps, might well be considered scams. I mean, you take, especially as you get combined prestige with a good sports program, and so let's just take, examples like Stanford or Harvard soccer, either men or women, and they'll hold these ID camps where they've already largely picked the people who are going to get so-called special admission spots, but why not hold a so-called ID camp where you can get several hundred kids to come in and pay like $500, where supposedly they might get that inner track to college. And in some cases, the head coach doesn't even show up. I mean, just as the assistant coaches run it, it's a way for them to pad their salaries. One thing that we've called for is for them to publish statistics of what percentage of kids who actually attend these ID camps end up going on to play for the college. I think in many cases it would be zero, no exaggeration.
How old are these kids that go to these ID camps, if you don't mind me asking?
Like 15 on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I mean, they get together a couple hundred kids. It's basically just a normal soccer camp, except the hook is that you might get that special admission spot. And it almost never works out. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not something that parents should be investing in unless the coach has already sort of independently identified their child as someone they're interested in.
Yeah, and we see that all the time with baseball and hockey. You have, like, again, the Perfect Game has this, you come down for a showcase. And then also, too, they have showcases for hockey. And they're like, it's $500, come down and you could be one. And when you get scouts looking at you, you have JUCOs, you have prep schools looking at you. You get these top-tier AAA programs out there. Like, hey, we want to take you on this team. And, same with baseball. You got the top baseball teams like, because they just want to find that one kid that can skate like the wind and can shoot the puck like just no other. And in baseball, they want to have that kid, that 13 or 14-year-old kid that throws 90 miles per hour, and they want to put him up on a pedestal and say, hey, look, see, this kid got it. This kid got it because he's the man. And you get all these delusional parents, and I said it, delusional parents. And they think, and it's scary. It is a scary thing because they prey on the weak. And I think it's great that you guys did this book, and I think it's also stuff that we brought to our attention. That's why me and Greg are here on this podcast, because it's like, come on, guys. Yeah, little Johnny's special. I get it.
Wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like, well, not my kid's great. No, okay.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that in the MLB and the NBA, for example, I imagine the NHL has some serious steps too. They have plenty of resources to find your kid.
Correct.
You do not bring those kids to them. That's not the only way they will find them.
Bingo.
So
that's perfect. That's a perfect analogy you just said there.
It's about making money on so many levels.
Well, it's funny. I had a conversation with an ex-NHL player that his wife was a dance studio with my daughter, and she did the dance studio again. I got caught up in that with the dance with them, but he did say to me once, he's like, "Oh, your kid plays hockey?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And we're talking about a little bit what levels. He goes, "It doesn't matter where they play. If he's good enough, they will find you." And that's exactly what you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting
Increasingly,
segue into
soccer is not that much different from baseball. They have a lot of scouts at this point.
Yeah,
so.
and the coaches talk, and the ones that are real, they're going to find you. They don't need to hey, show up at my camp and it's going to be a magical moment. But you also talked about the 3 different tiers of clubs. And when we talk about elite, it makes me think elite club national league. Is that the ECNL? That's sort of the high level soccer. That's not free, but help me understand this. So with soccer, you'll have MLS next, which is a free club. And I think we're trying to learn from the European system a little bit, where people should not be playing. The truly elite, the actual elite, are not going to pay to play. They're going to be found. They're going to be recruited. And MLS Next is a way for the MLS teams to try to foster academies. And I think it starts maybe 14, 15. But there are feeders, right? Of course, you've got to have the feeder into the elite free academy. And so there's different tiers. And I think we have an ECNL. There's the regional level. There's the actual ECNL. And there's academy. And so there's different tiers to get in there. And then there's also other clubs that will have an MLS Next track. But that is not free, right? So that's to groom you and get you ready for when that special day comes where you get to go play for free, and you get to be one of the 3 or 4 dozen in your metro area that gets to do that. But what was your research about these different levels of clubs, the tiers 1, 2, and 3? What did you find from not just the ones that call themselves elite that may have, a little bit more higher caliber, not necessarily going to go all the way, but what differences did you see in how these organizations are run?
Well, amazingly enough, it's only been about 18 months since we published the book, and things are changing so rapidly that there's already been many new developments. But MLS Next, at the time that we were finishing up the book, looked promising because they were doing things like, if they were going to have a tournament, they were going to have a rest day in the middle, for example, rather than trying to squeeze in as many games as possible. And yes, they were picking up some of the expenses once or maybe even all the expenses once a kid looked promising. Parents should have no illusions, though, when they put their kid in a situation like that. What is that club looking for? Well, they're looking for the 1 in 10,000, 1 in 100,000 kid who can actually play at the first division level. And so they don't necessarily have any interest in prepping kids for college or the like. So people should go in with open eyes. Otherwise, you pay a lot of money. Some clubs have decent coaches. A lot of clubs don't. It's surprising how much people pay and yet don't necessarily get such great coaching.
Nice.
And I think what I want to add to that, we knew many families over the years who participated in all of these different tiers, including those that were the professional soccer team academies, local teams. And what we end up, I suppose, concluding from our research and our experiences is that compared to countries who are quite successful in their youth development systems and who may have a much smaller population than us in many sports, including their Olympic sports, and their medal counts are quite high compared to our population sometimes. What we've found is that the systems that encourage the long-term development model of the players to get them to develop gradually, to love the game, to be self-directed, of course, with coach guidance, as opposed to win now and win at all costs and bring in more money and prestige to the team, or treat the kids like mini pros where they can't miss a game at age 11 because they're in a development system. They can't go to a family holiday or a family wedding without risk of losing their spot on the team. In my opinion, that is ludicrous, and it's not in the best interest of whatever club system, free or pay, elite or not. That's in no one's best interest.
Oh, I think that's an outstanding analogy on that one too, and going on. since you wrote this book here, and this is something that I have a couple of questions I wanted to ask you later on too, but this one right here, just when you wrote this book, you said a couple months ago, about 18 months ago, it's fairly new. I want to know, did you get any backlash from organizations, some other families, friends, or you have all praise from families and friends? Because it seemed to me what will happen if you put a book out there, it's almost like exposing some organizations and exposing some of the crazy parents that were like, no, no. And then sometimes when after it's all said and done, you know, they're like, yeah, I messed up, or I got caught with the hook, the whole 9 yards. I got hooked.
Yeah.
So have you guys felt any backlash or praise from organizations, some families or friends?
You know, the reaction of families was quite interesting. There were definitely some families, some of our friends who got really excited, and they had their kids had gone through club soccer, and they read the book and came to a couple of book talks. But one of the things that really surprised us, you know, we had spent years with some of these families with the kids on the same team, and some of the people that we told about the book, it was like you had the sense it was just they were just so grateful it was over that they never wanted to think about it again or something, and maybe in no small part because they had some doubts about what they had done, and maybe they didn't want to exercise those doubts. And of course, people from the clubs in a couple instances feigned a little bit of interest, but I think they knew instinctively how critical it was, and so they just kind of lay low.
Yeah. Well, of course, they don't want to be known. Go ahead, Jean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for me, I'll add to that. Yeah, some people who were so interested and so involved and so wanted to hear what we had to say and so excited for us, they started to read the book and they stopped and they never mentioned it again.
Wow.
And that really surprised me. But the most important person to me in terms of how it was received was my oldest sister, who is a long-term coach in the USA swimming world, 40 plus years, very well respected coach. And yes, she owns a private swim club and has come across hundreds and hundreds of families over the years. So it was very important to me how she received it because she works in this industry and I greatly respect her. And she read the book and she said, you nailed it. And there are huge differences, make no mistake. There are huge differences from club to club and coach to coach in terms of are they trying to follow best practices. Nonetheless, the parents, the players, the coaches, the clubs are all very complexly intertwined in a system that is really difficult to dismantle. And so the pressures are felt all around, even when you're a coach who is trying to do things in a long-term development sort of approach for your swimmers or players. There's so much pressure around them in terms of other clubs who will make promises of getting your kid to the Olympics or getting your kid that scholarship or NIL money.
Sound familiar, Greg?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to say that one. Sorry. Go ahead, Gene.
You talk
really
about
hard to do it right these days.
You talk about maybe you don't have the highest level coach who's doing the elite thing.
Well, I think also too, you know, it is a good thing. It is a good thing if you find the right coach and the right organization, and that's what I always said too. You know, trying to find that right coach that really does care about your kid, not really caring about the money and the aspects, and the organization that really does care about your kid. And like you just said it before, you know, there's some money-hungry coaches and money-hungry organizations. How hard was it to find the right organization over the years that you had 3 kids in these organizations? Did you stay with the same org? Did you go to multiple? And when you found it, did you leave or did they shut down or what happened there?
We did very minimal moving.
Okay.
Each of the kids moved once. Honestly, it was a question of finding the least worst club, I'm afraid. The one that overall tried to live up to the lofty ideals that were always articulated in the beginning of the year parents meeting and stuff, and yet nobody actually lived up to trying to concentrate on development, exclusively. But some at least did try to develop the kids, even as they were under immense pressure to win. And so, one of the biggest problems with the entire system is the coaches often feel powerless to actually, let's say you have a kid who's just in soccer at a certain age, just dribbling way too much. I mean, there comes a time when they need to start learning how to passing. And so the coach tells the kid, next time you dribble too much, I'm yanking you off the field. And then the parents just switch clubs. So, and it's an economic thing.
Well, that's a win.
Because
Get rid of that kid.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I agree with you, except then the coach might have to explain, why did we just lose a revenue source?
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you that there comes a time it's like, you're not going to listen to the coach, then you're not going to play. But because it's so much about the profit, eventually the coach might not intervene just because they're afraid that they're going to lose a family or something like that.
And that family could be very well liked by others on the team and is influential on other kids on that team too. So if you lose one, you can lose 7. That
That's
could
right.
also,
And maybe they're a donor to the club in addition to their regular fees.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, you talk about pressure. I want to get Gene's perspective on this, not just the pressure on the coaches to win or the pressure on the parents to get some return on their investment. What about the pressure on the kids, whether they're 10, whether they're 13, whether they're 16, from a psychological perspective? Like, what impact do you think that has made on them? Some thrive on it, I'm sure, some crumble, but it didn't seem to be like that back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s even, for kids coming up. The performance pressure seems to be a real problem, and I imagine it helps with the burnout, but from a developmental stage, just mentally, how does that impact the kids?
Well, that's a big question, but one of the biggest differences from when we were kids playing from our kids playing now, the adults involved in the game when we played, their involvement was minimal and their financial investment was minimal. They might have enjoyed going to some games for sure. And yeah, there were still parents behaving badly back then. But largely, it was still left up to the kids if they wanted to play or not, if they wanted to continue or not. And there was far less pressure to be good now and to shine and be a star now when we were kids. The kids these days that I see, if you just look out on the field, you can see a huge difference from a young age. That the pressure to perform and the worry about how they're being perceived. I have families that come into my office with kids of a young age, 6, 7, 8, and they'll say, how do we get our kids to not cry and complain about going to soccer practice? And well, yeah, when would that come to a clinical psychologist's office? It's when it's no longer a child's decision. Like, it's okay for a kid to say, I don't want to play again next year, but not in this world where it's perceived by the adults that there is so much to lose if your kid does not become high school sports material, college scholarship material, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of emotional impact on the kid. They're anxious. They get withdrawn. They don't enjoy what they're doing. And they often, although they can't put it into words necessarily, they often feel like they have no choice And there's great pressure to please their parents in this regard because the parents aren't willing to let them go when they're spending all that money.
Do you recommend to parents to ask their kids every season, every other season, or how do you talk to them about
Yes.
whether they want to do it? What do you think is the best approach?
Yeah, we have a chapter about that in the book. We have a chapter about sort of a best practices if you're going to choose to involve yourself in this sports industry at high price tag levels as your kid gets older. But yes, I would absolutely say at the beginning of the season, every season, ask your kid if they want to play. If they say yes, sure, you can help enforce that commitment till the end of the season. But no matter how talented they are and how many years of investment in this process they are, or how much pressure you get from coaches to say you have to keep them, this is their best sport, keep them in, they've got a lot of potential, that it really should be the child's decision to make, hands down. And we have lost sight of that so clearly, and I see that in so many shapes and forms in my practice today. The ability to support a child's autonomy in that, we are so over-involved with these kids, we can't see it anymore.
Yeah, I another question to just basically jump on that, what you were just talking about. You know, usually you hear parents like, "Oh, you got to give me an effort out there. Do you know how much money we're spending?" And I'm like, don't say that to a kid. You know, but
Right.
there's a time you're going to have to let your kid know this is not. You know, it's not a free ride, and I guess it's a learning curve for the kid too. Hey, listen, it does cost money for this, and I know when kids get to that point, there's a massive time. It's called burnout. You know, the kids practice it all the time because parents. You know, when do you suggest to let the kids know how much money we're spending about, and if you really want to get to work? Do you implement that when you ask your kid if he still wants to play? And what age do you think you started seeing more burnout?
So 2 parts.
Yeah.
I don't think burnout is hard to see if you're willing to see it.
Yeah.
But again, looking ourselves in the mirror is really difficult sometimes. It's very easy to say, well, that parent is making their kid keep playing. Look, he's not enjoying it. He's trying to skip practice. He's hiding when he gets to the field and pretending he was dropped off late. You know, it's not hard to see in someone else's kid, harder to see in your own.
Yeah.
So, you know, listening to the input of friends and family and coaches is important. But let's see, burnout was the first one. And the second one was, do you talk to the kid about the money you're spending?
Yeah.
Was that the question?
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I would say that they're 2 separate issues. If you can't afford to be spending that money, then you shouldn't be. The kids shouldn't feel like.
Can you say
they
that
have
again? Say that again. We got to put that on air. Can you say that one more time?
If you cannot afford to be spending that money on your kids' sports participation, then you shouldn't be.
Nope.
And it should your child's performance should not. You shouldn't be trying to manipulate your child's effort and interest in the sport because you're spending a lot of money.
Yep.
And that sort of manipulation rarely works. It does horrors to the relationship.
I've heard
with the
backfires
child.
on kids. It backfires, and the kids hate the parents.
It does. Yes, it does. It wreaks havoc on the relationship. So, no, I wouldn't be talking about the dollar signs. I would be focusing on, is this something that the kid finds meaningful, that they enjoy, and that they want to continue doing? So you know the price tag at the beginning of the season, and no matter how much love or interest your kid has in the game, by the end of the season, you should be asking that same question again. You're certainly allowed to help enforce that commitment to the team for a season. But also, I would say, this is a different topic, but there comes a point where you have to say, is there any reason that I would allow my kid to quit mid-season? And that's a whole different topic, but parents really quickly lose sight of that.
I've got something similar, like, yeah, don't bring up the money. But what about the time? Is there a way to reframe that same sort of question in a genuine manner to say, look, if you're not interested in doing this, it takes a lot of time for you, for me. You know, some of these sports are almost family sports because you have to travel so long and it eats up your weekend. Yes. Would it be more appropriate, or is it the same? You're coming at it from, it's just not a good idea.
Well, it comes back to the question of, are you going to trust your kid to answer that question at the beginning of the season, right? Like, is it worth it to you? Because we put in a lot of time and money into this. If they say no, they're not interested, are you going to take no for an answer, or are you going to try to convince them otherwise, right? Like, are we making this a lot more complicated than it needs to be?
Well, you know, the one thing that I would add is that when our oldest child turned 16, and we knew she loved soccer, but we said, you got to pay for a little bit of this. You're old enough to get like a summer job. And that was an interesting test, because boy, did she go out and earn some money, because she wanted to continue to play. And so I thought that was actually a useful exercise, because it became clear that, that she would, she just loved it enough that she would do what it took to be a part of it.
That's awesome to hear that. That is, because you know what? That's awesome that she had that goal to strive. And, I always say your kid will tell you they want to play by their actions more than they say they do. And that's always a big thing.
It's her goal, not ours.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, and it's great because because we see it all the time. We see it, Daddy, he's out there, he's doing this, and you get him all this stuff, and the kid's still playing video games, or he's hanging out with his buddies, riding a bike, not getting to work, and that's why some of these parents get crazy. Also I've seen, and I want to ask you this question too, if you've seen it too. The kids just play. And they say, yeah, I want to play. I want to keep doing it. And because they just don't want to basically let their parents down, because they played it for so long, and they just, they want to appease their parents and say, they take it as they love them just because they're playing sports. And no, that's not the point. But sometimes I've seen and I've heard, yeah, I want to do, because in a way, the kid's he's going to keep playing. He doesn't want to let his parents down.
People pleasing.
Yeah. Have you seen that a lot?
Yes, a fair amount, but that starts pretty early on in terms of whose decision is this to make? Is it the parents or is it the kids? And from very early age, when the parents are driving the train and dragging the kid along, it's no surprise that by high school they don't believe they can say, no, I don't want to play anymore. Mm-hmm. And then you have some zombie players, that are out there going through the motions, but they don't love the game anymore.
Yeah, because it's true, and it's those dad coaches and those coaches that yell and scream, and they don't want to be screamed at, and they don't want to be pushed, and it's like they've beaten themselves up over years and years and years and years of playing. It happens. Now, another thing too. I mean, I've seen this too in youth sports, and we've seen. It's awful to say. I mean, we've seen some divorce because of the stress on these parents that these games and these teams go through, and you see a lot of parents divorcing, and you're like, oh my God, you feel bad because you don't know what really goes behind closed doors. I'm sure if with the three of your kids, you've probably seen some ugly breakups over the years. Have you guys, what's some of the things that you guys witnessed?
Well, fortunately, we survived it, but I will say this. I mean, it didn't stress our marriage, but we spent more time talking about travel sports than practically any other topic. because there were so many bizarre aspects to it. It's like, how do you navigate it?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would add is that when we were finishing up the book, one of our neighbors is actually a divorce lawyer, and he said to us, he goes, "Hey, Ken and Dean, club sports are now so expensive that they often end up in the divorce settlement. Who's going to pay for them?"
Wow.
Going,
That's nuts.
That creates some perverse incentives right there to not work on your game.
Yeah. What I would add to that, I work with many families in conflict. Youth sports might be one of them, where there is great disagreement between parents, given all of the stressors involved, about should we continue or not? Should we support what the kid wants or not? Should we keep pushing forward with this? There can be great conflict. And I guess, to me, far more important than the decision of the kid needs to stay in this sport and in this expensive travel model, for example, or not, far more important is that the parents not be in conflict about this. Mm-hmm. And it's the conflict between the parents that wreaks havoc on the children.
Yes, it does.
So youth sports is just another
it's sad.
example
It's sad, Gene.
of where conflict happens now. Yeah,
it's really sad that society has gotten to this point with youth sports. And we always say this in a couple of our other podcasts, it is a $40 billion industry. And people are just getting rich and rich, and people are going in bankruptcy and debt and more debt over this, and it is absolutely crazy. And we had a guest on the show, and I respect the heck out of him, and he said straight out to him and his wife, he goes, "We will never fight over youth sports. I will never, never go to that level." And he's like, "Nope, me and my wife will absolutely not do that." And that's actually a great relationship build right there when he said that. And I think that's a great thing. People should be saying that to themselves, to their partner, going, "Hey, I don't care how bad it's getting or how good it's getting. We will never argue about youth sports." And I think that was perfect.
Or money. We'll never argue about money, dear.
Yeah,
right?
ever, right?
That's tough. That's tough. But from your perspective, what tips would you give to parents to have good conversations with their kids? And say they do want to quit, right? Maybe you're a little bit firmer at age 9 than you are at 13, but if they do quit their travel sport, is it better for them to, can you say, well, you got to do something, right? I mean, the benefits of youth sports are still significant, just the exercise alone. And what would you encourage if they decide to quit the pay-to-play model? Should they play a rec sport? Should they try some other? Because we don't want them playing Fortnite or Roblox. And in today's world, it's hard to keep them off the screens, and sports is a way to do it. Yeah. So how would you how do you foster good conversation with the family? And what do you do if they decide that they want to try something else or stop playing sports?
Conversations with the kids, and you certainly can set boundaries with the kid about we're going to require that you have some sort of physical movement built into your weeks, and we can talk about areas of interest for you. It doesn't have to be the way we've been doing it and paying so much money for. We can talk about other ways that interest you. Certainly you can still set boundaries around that, but it doesn't have to involve the craziness and the cost and the travel that so many young families have come to think is normal and required for the kids to have a positive sports experience. So whether it be if you can find a good, inexpensive rec level program, or maybe you go outside of competitive sports and you do hiking or biking, there's so many ways. But talk to most young parents sitting in the bleachers these days, and you'd think that was the end of the kid's life if they're not playing youth sports in this industry. So Yeah, I have some strong feelings about it. It's definitely possible. You can survive not playing in youth sports, and you can
Good.
empower your kids to figure out something else other than.
It's like we're parenting then. Oh my God, what's going on? You got to be a parent? What? Oh no! Instead of just throwing them out there, let the coach them, and that's it.
Exactly. You're not kidding. Well said.
Yeah. So let me ask you another. I got a couple more questions here. Did you said your friends were saying that they're glad it's over, right? Hot soccer's over. Are you glad it's over? Do you miss it?
I miss the beauty of the game. I genuinely love soccer.
Well, that was going to be my other
the
question. Are you guys soccer fans too? So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I think it's, for me, it's a beautiful game. I think when it's taught correctly, there's a lot of life lessons. I don't miss the ridiculous amount of time. I think that there was a stretch there where we didn't have many free weekends, many weekends that weren't soccer, and it was, just crazy in retrospect. So I don't really miss it that much. I mean, we wrote the book mainly so that young parents can go into this with open eyes, at least, if they take the time to read it, because it's something that you gain knowledge along the way, and it's a slow process. The kids start out, and maybe they're not traveling, so maybe it doesn't seem very expensive, and then it gradually builds up and all. So if there's any way that the book can help young parents, just like, this is a lifestyle choice about whether you put your kid on a travel club, because the moment you do, it's,
you're in.
Within 3 to 4 years, set aside 40 weekends of the year for the sport or something along those lines.
And also, too, if you think about it, it's almost like 11, 12 years of your life. It's 11, 12 years of your life, and every weekend, I could see how people say, I'm glad it's over. And I know after hockey season, we're always like, thank goodness, I'm just tired, and you're tired of going through it. I did say
then you do spring hockey.
No, I don't do any spring. He does the spring hockey. We do baseball. And we're like, yeah, man, another sport. But I know, I did a TikTok video one time. We were driving down to the rink and at like 5 a.m. and and we're there, we're talking. I was talking, and I said deep down inside, there's going to be a time I'm going to miss this. There is a time that you hear people, you see like little TikTok videos, and you dread getting up at 5 a.m. there, out there drinking your coffee, and then there's going to be the time that you get up when you're older and your kids are older, and you say, hey, I miss those times. We took them for granted. And you never want to take that for granted, too, because it is a great time to spend with your kids, and you can have those conversations and growing, and you can always, later on in life, hey, you remember that time when when it, thunderstormed and you almost got, you got rained out that game, or just whatever, or you're in the hotel and you guys were playing soccer in the hallways and stuff. There's that.
Well, let me just add one comment, and then I need to sign off, and I'll let Ken continue. Hopefully, if you play your parenting cards right, not only will you miss it, but when your child is done, they'll miss that and the relationship they had with you around sports. But I've seen a lot of sports experiences ruined by adults for these kids these days, and that's what we all are trying to help avoid, that they be having the opportunity to be lifelong involved in sports and love it as much as we did as kids and adults.
Real quick, what advice would you give as you're hopping out? Like, what solutions, what can parents do to fix themselves other than putting the kid in the driver's seat? What would you advise parents of younger kids based on everything that you've learned in your journey?
I think you have to do a really honest evaluation of yourself. Ask people that know you well. Ask your friends to give you some honest feedback about who is this more important to, my child's success in the sports world. Is it more important to me, or is it more important to them? And if you can't answer that question honestly, you're going to have a lot of trouble with the relationship with your kid in youth sports.
I love that answer,
And-
Gene. Love it.
Okay, good.
That
I'm
is
glad.
awesome. That is a great answer. I love it. You know, can you say? I want to say that again out loud, and we can play that out for everybody we know. No, that's
You
great.
have to. You have to be able to make sure your kid wants this and loves it at least as much, if not more than you do. And if you're driving the train, you're going to have trouble, big trouble.
Awesome.
Well,
So
thank you
that's
for
where
joining
I'll sign
us.
up, and thank you so much.
Gene, thank you so
And,
much.
It was
Outstanding.
great talking to you.
Pleasure talking to you
All right,
too.
bye-bye.
Next time I'm in Portland, we'll go say hi.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Ken, I had a couple more questions here, and we'll get to more solutions because you guys, it's one thing to just point out a problem, and it's another thing to bring solutions. I always tell people that are working for me, don't just drop a problem on my desk, right? You may need to wait a little bit and then bring it to, but have a solution, right? I think that's really important. So we'll get there. But before we do, one thing that really I'm fascinated with is the organizations, the clubs, the 501c3s, these non-for-profit youth sports organizations. And you guys touch on that. What did you learn about them? What can you tell people about these non-for-profits that are doing youth sports?
This is nonprofit basically means you just keep all the profit for yourself. You don't have to share it with stockholders or anything like that. You have to do it a little differently in the sense that if your nonprofit has made money and you're the one running it, you typically have to pay it to yourself as salary rather than just withdraw it. A business owner can just withdraw profit. But you could basically do the same thing, and these clubs are clearly being run for profit. I mean, the whole nonprofit sector in the U.S. is a different book, with people making, salaries in some cases that most of us don't associate with the nonprofit world. So it's, and this is true in youth sports as well.
So how do they do? Like, you'll have coaches, or who owns them, right? Because you have some sports organizations, but then you might have an arm of a professional sports organization, and there's lots of different layers. But how does it work? Because it seems like from your research, people can do pretty well, just sort of playing this game. Maybe they didn't make it all the way, but how do the economics work for these clubs?
Oh, well, there are coaches who are definitely making six figures.
Jeez.
I mean, high, significant amounts coaching soccer in some of the major metropolitan areas. Because another thing about a nonprofit is it means that people can make donations and get the tax write-off. And so the more successful travel clubs are not only charging the annual fees and running tournaments that make, a profit, but they're also soliciting both well-to-do families and businesses to donate to the club. And all that is fair game to be paid out as salaries, and it is in many cases. And so, now the one thing that's useful about nonprofits is that their tax returns are public. And so people out there might want to do a little search. You don't have to, there's a website, I can't quite remember the name of it, where you can just access the financials of your travel club, if it's a nonprofit, if it's a 503c. And, you might be surprised about what some of the people in the club are making. So next time they ask you to, donate an entire weekend volunteering to help make a tournament successful, well, they're making a lot of money off that tournament. Maybe they should be paying parents who are helping out with the tournament or something like that. In any case, it helps you think through a few things.
Wow, we're going to definitely do some research on that one because I have a whole bunch of things I could look on that and see if they're nonprofits and go, huh, how much did you make, you little...
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to find that website there.
Yeah, we do, don't we? That could be a whole episode.
What about the tournaments, though? You have a whole chapter on tournications. And I think it started back in the Disney Wide World of Sports, right? That was back in the 80s where they got everybody to come down to Orlando, and we were just in Tampa. But traveling is fun, I guess, for the kids. It's a pain sometimes. But let's be honest, it's also a lot of fun for the parents. Sometimes you make good friends. Like that's how Seth and I got to hang out, and you make lifelong friends. And then sometimes you make season-long friends, right? But that's some of the pressure where people are like, wait a minute, you're what? So that's part of the problem. But as far as these tournaments, how do they operate where I think you were talking about some crazy amounts of money that people are making with these tournaments?
Oh, there are people who make $1 million. There are clubs that make $1 million off a tournament in a single weekend. I think we have to separate. You know, the tournication is the term that people have come up with. I mean, going off to a tournament because it's basically another way of having a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
From the issue of whether they're developmentally useful. And in other words, do they make people better baseball players, better soccer players? And I would argue up until like maybe U14 that they're basically worthless in terms of development.
Well, it's weird you say that because there's everyone's like, oh, this AAA Quebec tournament up in Quebec, it's the coup de grace. Listen, the kid, he would want to go, but it's not on his bucket list to go up to Quebec in this super tournament
In the winter.
In the winter, you go to Quebec in the winter. Oh, it's my kid's dream. Your ass! It's not your kid's dream. Your kid's dream is go down to Disney. That's what it is. Or go hanging out.
Well, they certainly did. I mean, Disney exploited this. I mean, it is the perfect place to do the tournament because then you go to the theme parks, and so. It's the quintessential tournication, but at the younger ages, we're not making better soccer players or baseball players, and people should get out the yellow pad and the pencil and do the math.
Yeah.
And how much are you paying for playing minutes? How much are you paying for each at bat? And you may actually figure out that you're paying the same amount that you'd probably pay a heart surgeon.
It's funny you say that. Ken, it's funny you say that. I broke down a couple years ago ice times. How much you paid, have the breakdowns of how many ice times you're out there, and per game. It was amazing. It blew my mind, the difference. And I'm like, what are we doing at this organization? Because it's too expensive. You're paying X amount of dollars for just a game. And meanwhile, we went to another program and we're like, this is like 3/4 of the price per game. You go and the kid wants to play a game. That's what it is. They play sports because it's a game. It was really like eye-opening, and I'm glad you say that.
Oh, he does the math in the book.
I'm crazy.
It's great.
I'm crazy, Ken, with this.
And it's not cheap math there. But talk about a little bit the national organizations or the regional organizations that govern the sports, right? So we got USA Hockey. You've got the National Soccer Federation or something like that. What role are they playing, and what kind of trickle down accountability to the local folks? Like, how can we approach this to have a better national organizational structure?
Yeah, I'm pretty critical of the national organizations. I mean, U.S. Soccer and U.S. Youth Soccer sponsor, these national tournaments at the young age, perfectly well knowing that they're worthless developmentally, but they make them a lot of money. And so I just don't understand that. I mean, they're very much driven by the profit motive themselves. I mean, one of the experiences I had is one year our son did make regionals with the U17. And, frankly, it was fun in spite of I do remember paying like $289 a night for some 2-star hotel, so I could do that.
You can get it for $99 a night now.
Yeah. And, but because we were already writing the book, I wandered over to watch a U12 boys game. This was regionals, but whoever won regionals was go on to nationals. And some boy on one of the teams who was basically already a man, even though it was U12, just within minutes of me watching, just outran everybody on the other team and scored a goal. And I thought to myself, well, that means absolutely nothing in the long run. I mean, it's just completely meaningless. He's just bigger, faster, and who knows if he'll be any good down the road, but he'll probably help his team win. And everybody in the organizations knows this, but they still sponsor these tournaments because they're money makers. And they also look the other way. They put out guidelines about how for every, game that kids play at U11, every hour of a game, they should have 4 hours of practice. Well, if they actually enforce that, if for example, a club had to have a true U.S. soccer stamp of approval, this club follows best practices, and it's serious. Like, you didn't follow them, you didn't have the stamp of approval. And over time, parents, they learned to look for that. And they learned to look for that for swimming, for hockey, for baseball. No over-practicing the kids. Don't have them, play too many games. Cut down on overuse injuries. That would whip the clubs into shape over time. Because if the parents wouldn't let the kids play for a club that didn't have that stamp of approval, then eventually they would have no choice. But the national organizations, with some exceptions, are not only not enforcing that sort of thing. In soccer, I would go as far to say is they're playing along and reaping the profits from the system.
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you never know who gets on those bodies, and you like to think they have the love of the sport in mind, but they might have ulterior motives. And look at the people in Dallas, right? Yeah. I mean, they got in trouble. People in Colorado with
Vegas,
the hockey world. So we had some folks from the Dallas area that dealt with some of the unseemly sides of that, and that's why we're excited that State of Play is no longer happening. But you got to wonder what's going on and where's the accountability. One thing that I thought was very interesting in your book towards the end was what you called it, a Department of Sports, which is an interesting term. I might call it a Ministry of Sports, but Gina, she alluded to Norway earlier. Norway is blessed with a lot of natural resources. They've got a lot of oil. They've got a lot of rare earth. They've got a pretty good thing going over there, and they've taken that money and they've invested it into sports. And they have sort of it's under age of 12. I don't think they even keep score, right? Like, they don't keep score until you're 12 or something like that. But they fund their sports, and they have a national initiative to make them fun, make them accessible, and then at the right time for the ones that want to put in the work, not please their parents, they get competitive, and they just kicked everybody's butt at the Olympics, right? So a national body, or maybe even at a state level that is not hockey or soccer or baseball or fencing, but just a sports organization. I can see the concerns people would have about it, but some sort of governing body. You have the NCAA that's kind of fallen apart. It was toothless. It was one of those organizations that was supposed to govern, but it didn't. And look at the state of college sports now. Yeah. It's completely collapsed. It's a disgrace. But we can't seem to fix it. But what about some sort of central or state Department of Sports? What made you guys think of that?
Well, that would be the one way to exert authority across the country. I mean, but there'd have to be certain preconditions. I mean, Americans would have to come to some sort of consensus that youth sports shouldn't be based on the market. That, you know, all kids should have an opportunity to play sports at some level up until some age. And if Americans are able to agree on that, then, you know, we could have a ministry of sports that provided funding so that there were opportunities for pretty much all kids to play sports if they wanted. I would imagine that the travel clubs would go berserk because it would undercut their business model. But it's been so marketized. I mean, I remember, you know, after the fact, I can say that growing up, my mom probably wrote like a $10 check for me to play youth baseball.
Yeah.
You know, and
you didn't have to go out to go get those bats and those crazy bats for $400 and the sliding mitts and the new baseball gloves for $400. You're like, really? Yeah, I get it, man.
So, but these sorts of things, I mean, I'm not sure it would work well. Americans, as a rule, are kind of suspicious of additional government, and so just plopping it down from above with how
maybe you could do it at the state level, but yeah, I mean, they'd probably ruin all sports, and we'd be like, I remember the days when we used to pay $10,000 and it was worth it. But what about cities? What about the municipalities and their role in trying to make sports accessible?
I wish they would do more. A lot of them have had their funding cut, and also what's additionally maddening is that various cities now look at what's going on with travel clubs and decide, well, rather than building fields so that, you know, kids can just go out and hit a baseball around, why don't we build a 40-field complex so we can rent out to the travel clubs and actually earn some revenue for the city. And so, like, if you go around Portland from the late afternoon on, you might see a lot of youth sports going on, but in most cases, those fields are rented out by the travel club.
I got to tell you, guys, you know, it sounds like a terrific idea, but there's no way that can happen because they're making too much money on this stuff. I think it's too far gone that can ever happen because people are so greedy and organizations are so greedy, and they just sit back and just collect, like you said, millions of dollars for a weekend. I mean, really, there's no way in hell that this is going to ever – I mean, it's a great idea, and you have to put something on it.
Well, you need people to try to shine a light on it,
yeah,
right? And
that's what we're doing here.
At the city level, it'd be great to get some sort of investment in it. And we can talk about private equity. Buying up the fields and creating, and that's what we're really against more than anything is the vertical integration and people totally making it elite, where you half the people can't even get in their foot in the door. But we need people to appreciate the value for the community in having youth sports as a budget item instead of outsourcing it to the professionals or the semi-professionals or whatever. We need people to realize that it's important, and I think that's part of what the book is aiming at, to try to tell people what are we losing for this, besides time, money, and mental health. We need to find a way to get everybody involved, and maybe it's a pipe dream, right? But it's the right thing to do. But what, in your research, what did you find as a viable or your best idea as to try to address the issue, other than talking about it? What other, maybe not a ministry or municipal sports program, but what do you think is a good idea?
Well, I think what's the most likely, although I say it's the most likely, but I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime soon. But if I were to think of all the suggestions we made in that last chapter, the universities and colleges are under immense stress at the moment. Some of it is self-inflicted.
Yep.
I wonder if at some point, they're getting a lot of grief about what's called legacy admissions. In other words, if mommy or daddy or grandfather went to a place, the kid applying gets special consideration. Well, if they get under enough pressure and financial pressure that they do away with preferential admission for athletes, that would be a major blow to youth sports. Because why? Why are people spending all that money? Well, some of it might just be plain prestige to tell the neighbors, but a lot of it is about trying to earn that preferential admission spot. And if that wasn't out there anymore, I don't think travel youth sports would exist in the form that it does right now. So that's what I would be looking for, because it is not a happy time for universities. Some people want to blame it all on the Trump administration. That's not true, except for maybe a few of the super elite ones. What's really going on is there's not as many college-age kids as there used to be, and colleges and universities are under financial stress. Can they continue to support these athletics? And is it fair to give preferential admission to athletes? These are questions that suddenly more and more the colleges and universities are having to deal with. So if that goes pop,
I think, college is just a ripoff at this point. You talk about spending money to try to get a scholarship, and are you spending more money than the scholarship would actually be worth, right? Some people do that. Yeah. But college is not necessarily setting everyone up to succeed, because you come out with an enormous amount of debt. And so that's a problem that I do think they need to reckon with, and maybe they can change their admissions. Or maybe we should just become electricians, tell our kids to become plumbers.
Hey,
there's a lot to be said for that.
I want to throw a little side on this one too. I mean, we're talking about parents, about what's going on here, and and me, I'm going to throw out a little angle at it, and maybe throw some controversy or some questions on this one. I'm sitting here as a coach, right, a baseball coach. And you sit there and you try to figure out what is the best angle to coach kids. Is it more of the development? Is it wins and losses? Is it, is everyone having fun? So, even in the middle school era, it's very challenging. And I'm going to tell you right now, it beats me up what angle to go at. I really do. And again, you can reiterate this in any sport, soccer, baseball, hockey, whatever. I beat myself up on this as a coach, and yes, it's middle school, but there's also other kids having fun. Well, if they're losing, they're not having fun. Like last year, that team was terrible. They didn't win one game. But in this year, right, Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and like this year, are they having fun? They're having a little bit more fun. They're having a little bit more success, But also too, I'm trying to sit there and make sure everyone is developed and everyone is, hey, listen, if I play everybody, it means that we're either blowing someone out or we're not, or we're getting blown out. And then, the practices are the ones where the kids start developing, like you said earlier, the practices, and these kids are getting a lot better. I mean, I got to tell you, I enjoy so much coaching this team, but at the end of the day, I look at myself, and I question myself every single day. Did I do the right thing? Did I get enough kids into the game? Is everyone happy? It's almost impossible to make everyone happy as a coach. And again, this is the coach's angle to all of this. If your team's winning, everyone wants to join the team. But if your team's losing, everyone wants to get the heck out of that organization. Yeah. So it's a very fine line as a coach, as an organization, and as a parent. I'm a parent of a kid of a baseball. I get it in hockey. But now I'm a coaching at a different level. I coached at a rec level. Everyone gets a prize. And then I coached at a travel level, and you're like, all right, well, this is expensive. Now I'm coaching at a school level, and I'm trying to figure out what the best way to coach these kids. Is it, do I play everybody? Is it development? Or, it's a very hard decision. Ken, what did you see with some of your coaches, going through this procedure?
Yeah, I don't envy you. And first of all, I will honestly say that I hate losing. I mean, I really, really lose. Okay, but at the same time, I mean, how seriously are we going to take winning at the U9 level?
Oh yeah, I get you. And at the rec level too, no less.
Yeah. And so we saw through the years some very good coaches who wanted to focus on development as much as possible. But in the end, the clubs are under immense pressure to say win. In soccer, it's called State Cup.
Okay.
And the winning is what attracts often more players, especially for parents who might not be good consumers. And so there's this whole ecosystem that makes it difficult even for really good coaches to do the right thing. That's why when earlier I mentioned it was finding the least worst club. It was the club that tried to do as much development as possible, even though they were still under a lot of pressure to win. And, but who is the winning for?
Yeah.
That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. I mean, is the winning so that the club can make more money? Because often that's what it's about and attract ever more players. And
well, in the hockey industry, you get the banners, and even baseball, you get the banners. And, hey, come to this club. We're a winning organization. And people, I mean, you get parents that want to do that. Like, hey, I'm sick and tired of losing. I want to go have a winner. I want my kid to have the feeling of a win, of a championship. I need my kid to win something, And again, it could be also it's the parents that are saying this. It's the kids. There's kids out there that are like, I'm just sick of losing, Dad. I want to win a game. I don't care if I don't play. I just want to win a game. I want to win a championship.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, even in soccer, I mean, soccer's not basketball, but at the younger levels, you can definitely win just by recruiting the bigger kids at the younger levels. But they may not even make the team.
No.
Down the road. And one thing that I wish every soccer parent in the United States understood that Spain won the World Cup with a midfield that averaged around 5'7" or 8.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And so soccer in the long run, it's not so much about the size, it's about the skill. And so when we saw over and over the youth soccer coach that had recruited the U13 girl who was actually already a young lady. I mean, she was 5'9", and so she was just bigger, or the young man. And yet they just were using them. They weren't even necessarily making them learn the skills, and then they would often just be discarded as you got to the U14 level because they didn't have those skills, and the other kids.
It's like they're playing down.
So
they're not playing up, they're playing down, and then they're just not necessary. It's a short-term game.
Yeah, so I mean, if the goal, somehow the system has to be tweaked so that, in the case of soccer, and I assume it's the same for baseball, I mean, if you've got a kid who's just a fantastic long-term, I mean, you can tell he's athletic and stuff, but he's still small, he should just play anyway. I mean, maybe he can't make the long throw, but that once he grows, he's going to be he's going to be very good. So just have them focus on the basics and somehow resist that desire to win at U10. I mean, in concrete terms, one thing I would really ask that all parents who are new to the travel club sports or just pay to play, consider, I mean, really look carefully if your kid is on a team that wins like a tournament at, say, U9 or 10. Watch how often the parents go almost psycho. I mean, they almost lose themselves.
It is true. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand.
And and ask yourself, like, what is this about?
Yeah.
I mean, one of our oldest daughter coaches now, and she was coaching, I think it really was a U9 team, and they won a tournament. And the parents literally went berserk to get, like, the team photo holding, like, a 3-foot-high trophy, which...
I see. You got a hot button with me.
Yeah.
There we go. He's getting me because how much I always get pissed off. I see little Johnny holding his ring up, and he just won the championship, and he's sitting there, he's holding the trophy, and they post it all over Facebook, and they can't wait. Congratulations, Johnny, you won! Yay! and as Greg has a back. Oh, he's knocking things. He does have one right here in the office. He's showing it on there. He's got a.
Yeah, and he's who's it about? But at that tournament, one of the girls, after the last game, which was the championship game, one of the girls asked our daughter, the coach, when is the championship game? I mean, she didn't know.
That's great.
She didn't know that they won it, but the parents were going psycho.
Oh,
everybody, all of them had to have the photo.
Yep.
And stuff.
Yep.
And so who is it?
Who's it for?
At that point, ask yourself, who is it for?
Mm-hmm.
And is U9? I mean, what is this about? Is it really that important to win at U9, or if you care deeply about the sport, and you also care about winning, I think winning in, say, high school or even more so college is a lot more meaningful than winning at U9 and stuff, because
I do want to
develop.
I do want to toss out something there. What you just said there, I got basically a last question and a statement with that one too. I think you go really new U9, but I do remember when I grew up, I'll always remember my little league baseball game that I won the championship. I always remember winning it. We didn't have selfies back then. I'm old, we didn't have pictures. I mean, you had but you always did remember that, and it is nice.
Sure.
And I get it. And the parents do go bonkers, and it's comical, But if your team wins all the time, you forget that one. You don't. You totally.
Everybody needs one.
Yeah, they do need one.
Everybody needs one.
But what I want to say to you too, and this is probably my last question to you tonight here is, I love the name of the book. What is the goal? Who came up with that and why? I love it. I think it's great. Did we lose you?
Oh, he didn't want to answer that question.
He got off. We got to try to call him back. Yeah, let's try to call him back. I got him I stumped him then.
Maybe he's not supposed to answer that one.
I stumped you. That was it, But yeah, I want to go back quick a little bit on that, saying, hey, it is true. I did remember my Little League World Series win, and I always do remember. Like, you nailed it. You always got to at least win one.
Yeah,
win one. And the poor kids that sometimes they just don't win, and you're like, oh man, just give him one, man. Give him one. There he is. What's up, Ken?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
who came up with it? Who came up with the name? That's where we lost you.
Yeah, we lost you, Ken. I lost you. Right when I finished my question.
I think it probably was more Jean than me. She's a little bit more skilled with words.
Well, you've written a few books, though.
That's true, but I guess it was something that it probably related. We spent so many hours talking about youth sports, because even more so than we were kids, there was just these constant ethical issues that
youth sports ethics.
Yeah, that's a good one. That might be your next book.
So what are we trying to accomplish? What are we trying to accomplish here?
Yeah.
What are people trying to accomplish by having their kids
Because I say
sports?
that all the time to a lot of these parents that we were with here, and in this community here of youth sports, of youth hockey and youth baseball, and all the classes that they do, and all the extra ice sessions, and all the pitching lessons, and all the catching lessons, and all the jump up and down lessons. And what is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish with all of this stuff? Is it you? Is it a pride thing for you as a parent? Well, little Johnny he's throwing 95 now, and his arm's going to fall off, or he's running, how fast, and he can kick the ball, he can make a 90-yard field goal. Really, what is the goal? And and then also with all this goal and all these classes and the clinics and everything that's killing you with finances, and you go, and you can burn out or you can get injured. That's that. I love it. I love that. What is the goal? Because that's exactly what we've been trying to say over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, we think the goal is beer league.
That's
right?
exactly. Well, I got in trouble though.
To keep the passion for the game, to stay active, and to have fun with your friends.
That's a hot button, Ken, because someone got mad at me because I said that your kid will end up in beer league, and they went through the roof.
That's a good question, though. Do your kids, your older kids, do they still play soccer in some adult league form?
Yeah, one thing that's been fun for the kids is that soccer is such an international sport, and the kids ended up loving travel and traveling a lot. I mean, often on their own. And every place they went, if they just went to a beach and were juggling a soccer ball, they just got invited to play pickup by. And the son made lots of good friends in Mexico just by going out and playing street soccer. So it's been something that has they've continued to play. I mean, they play in leagues now too, but it is pretty much a beer league at this point. But overall, I think they still love the game, so that was a good thing that came out of it. They really understand the game, and they've all coached as well.
There you go.
They got
coached. There you go.
Do they take coaching kind of seriously, or is it just a casual thing?
They take it super seriously, and they end up at our dinner table asking us what should I do in this situation.
So that question I asked you, I said about me earlier, it might be a great question to pop out there with them and go, hey, where are you on this? It is a difficult question.
That's one thing that we've found is that people, find their second passion for the sport when they start coaching it. And that's what we want is good coaches, people that can maybe they're tilting at windmills, but maybe they make a difference, and you find a good advisor. Like you almost need an advisor now, someone you can trust, like Tom Murphy was on.
Murph. I mean, every one of our coaches that were on here.
So there are some great people out there that you can find, and so it's great. But I want to transition. We'll wrap up here soon, but you talk about international, meeting people in Mexico. My question, why does the U.S. struggle to create world-class soccer players? What's our problem? Why we've got more people playing than any other country, but still we kind of suck at soccer. Like what's the problem?
Yeah. Well, the women have done well.
That's true. That's true.
They're going to be under increasing pressure. I think that I have a friend who has a very deep understanding of how all countries in the world do soccer, and he told me that the U.S. has, no exaggeration, the single worst approach to developing youth soccer players in the world.
Wow. I think it's because of Greg. Greg's the coach in soccer. That's why. No. Sorry about that.
So
It has to do with the money. It's not about the players. It's about the money. That's what we're talking about.
So the youth development program is not good, but I think it's also still the case that we should be doing better. But in so many other countries, soccer is the sport, and as much as there are a ton of kids playing soccer, you can still make a lot more money in the U.S. playing most of the other sports, and a lot of our best athletes play other sports. But I think that our developmental program in soccer is unfortunately not as much about development as it is about money, and that doesn't work out well. In France, they don't score until they're like 15 in soccer, and France has won its share of World Cups and been to finals as well because they don't think it's useful. Not that the kids don't know the score, but the emphasis is not on who wins the game. The emphasis is on developing the players up until 15 and all. And so the fact that we have U12 coaches under immense pressure to win every given game, so much so that there was a kid on a team that my son was on for a while, and then we watched him for 4 more years. They determined, the coaches decided that when he was like 9, that he was a left back. And he never got to play anything else from age 8 on. It's like, really? Put him in goal. Put him at forward. He'll be a better left back if he plays forward. And put him in the midfield, but like left back, because each weekend the pressure was so great to win that game. And that's not developing the sort of players
it's giving them stress, and they're gonna, then it's it's gonna stress them out more than anything, and just they're gonna get angry, and then they're gonna never play the game before again. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Well,
you guys asked great questions.
Well, thanks, Ken. I got to tell you. So what we do too on our podcast, we do a little get off my lawn. A little questionnaire, usually we say, which person would you like, or which thing would you like to hang out with, have a beer, have a coffee, or a sangria, whatever you like, I don't know. Or the other one, you just go, you know what, enough's enough. You get off my lawn. You get the heck out of here. I don't want you here. That's our little segment. We ask a couple questions, and you just give us reasons why, which one we do. And you kind of got it good, because you are a soccer fan. And that's a great thing. So I was happy some of my questions here that are going to relate to you. So, all right, the first question here, and we're going to go ahead and give it the Beer League motto question card, is Messi or Ronaldo? Who do you got? Who are you going to hang out, have a beer with, and who are you throwing off the lawn?
I think Messi is a genius like few athletes who've ever existed. I mean, I recognize all that Ronaldo has accomplished, but Messi does things that I didn't really think were possible. So I would love to have a few moments with him, just to sort of ask him if he understands that.
Nice.
He is a true genius.
Well, that's nice. When he came down here to Nashville, he was down here in Nashville, and those tickets went wild. That was like $1,000 tickets for against Miami. So that
was a great game because it went to a shootout. And hey, sometimes my concern with soccer is there's a lot of draws, right? There's a lot of draws. They can be exciting, I guess, but this was the mid-season tournament, and there was not going to be a tie. And they went to shootouts, and they went to kicks and kicks and kicks, and eventually the goalies had to shoot on each other.
Really?
Which is probably my favorite soccer moment ever.
See, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah.
Who won?
I believe it was outer Miami or inner Miami. But Messi's team won.
Won.
The goalie, but before that goalie shoot-off, the goalie stopped all 10 shots.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing.
That's crazy. That's a big net, too, so. All right, so you like Messi, too. All right, good. Ronaldo, you get the heck out of here, Ronaldo. All right, what do you think, another question, what do you think is a bigger championship for the biggest thing ever, the World Cup or the Olympics?
Well, in soccer, it's the World Cup.
Okay.
It's funny because this has become a major topic for my family as well as many soccer fans. We figured that we'd be able to see World Cup games in our own country without too much problem. FIFA, talk about greed.
They're $1,000. So I was looking at the USA Australia game there in Seattle, and the nosebleeds are $1,000.
Oof.
Yeah, so it's a wonderful tournament, but honestly, I wish that there was some way I could watch it without contributing a penny to FIFA, because they are just, the level of greed is mind-boggling.
Wow.
Have they cleaned up their act at all? I know that there was a lot of corruption they got in trouble for. Do you feel like they've gotten any better?
They may have cleaned up the corruption, but you can still pay yourself absolutely shocking amounts of money, supposely.
They're a nonprofit.
Legally, and then they always
Fun of a nonprofit, yeah.
They're just trying to govern sports.
These feel-good causes or something, even as they're just doing outrageous things and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, hey, there's an Olympic game in Nashville
Yeah,
that was
is.
announced. So you guys were trying to get to Nashville if you come down here for that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind, yeah.
All right, let us
Come
that'd be
check
great.
in with us here in 2028, and we'll see if we fix this youth sports problem.
Hope so. All right, my last question here. Real Madrid or Manchester United?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah.
See, I'm not going to give you layups, Ken. I got to get you thinking a little bit.
I mean, I think in terms of which, I'd rather attend a game at Real Madrid because I think the culture is just so amazing in places like Spain. Not that it's not serious in England, but yeah, the Spanish really take their soccer seriously, and just it's such an overall wonderful atmosphere.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I'm going to throw a little quick one on here. So, especially with Manchester United, I know a lot of fans over there got upset about when the Glazer family bought them. That was a big thing because they're American USA Tampa Bay Buccaneer ownership, and when they bought them, a lot of people were not happy and boycotted it. What did you think about that?
I'm not sure that the American investors understood, like, these clubs have histories and there's certain expectations about how the owners will behave.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there was some genuine, culture clash going on there. But one thing's for sure is they're not doing so great of late. They're not the Manchester United of, when Ferguson was the coach. And so something hasn't gone as well as people would hope.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Well, I think that there should be relegation in the MLS, and maybe that is a good place to start with our soccer problem.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
It makes it so much more exciting. I mean, European soccer is a lot more interesting because there's so much at stake, and when they get kicked out, it's a problem. They get parachute money for like 3 years because it really hurts the community. They give them millions of dollars to try to rebuild, but you're out, Wolves.
Wow.
See ya.
Wow.
Sorry.
Well, all right. Well, I tell you what, I usually do a rant at the end of this.
Are you doing a rant?
No, I'm not going to do a rant because I kind of felt bad. I'll do a half a rant. It's not really a rant. Today in our baseball game here, Ken, I usually do a rant. I go off things that piss me off and everything. But I tell you what, there was an umpire today, and he made some terrible calls. Not that it helped because we got destroyed. But one of the kids got at a bat, and the guy threw a curveball, and it bounced on the plate and struck. And the kid didn't swing, and he called him a strike 3. And then I'm like, what's going on? Then one of the parents on the other team was like, hey, knock it off. I said something to me. I'm like, come on, guy. And then, like, at the end of the game, there was almost a double play, and the kid turns left. Like, he runs down first base, and they overthrow. And my catcher runs down, great backup play, picks the ball up because the runner was running down the line, and he turned left, but then he walked right back to the base. I'm like, tag him. And the guy goes, nah, and he didn't say anything. I go, is he out? And this guy, and I felt so bad for him because he was like 110 years old umpire. And I walk out and I'm talking to him, and he's just looking at me. And I go, did you see what he did? He goes, I'm just watching his body language. I go, did he turn left? When you're running down first baseline and you turn left. He's going to go to second. He goes, I looked at his body language. I go, but did he turn left? He goes, again, I looked at, and I said, you know what? I don't care. I go, I'm not going to argue with this guy. I'm like, the game's completely out of reach. And then I'm like, just, nah, dude, it's okay. Here, go to bed. It's way past your bedtime. It's 6 o'clock at night. You didn't get your blue plate special. You didn't get it, so you had to go. So that was my little rant. I didn't really go on a rant. A mini rant there.
Calling out the ref. Do you want to tell us his name?
I don't even
You got
know.
his address?
I felt bad for him when I talked to him a little bit, and it was kind of cool because the coach on the other team was from New York too, and we started talking about Italian restaurants and some places to eat around here. So if I'm gonna try to get a hold of him. He was a good dude.
Always using that New York angle.
Ken, you miss good food, don't you, up there in Portland? Don't you?
Yeah. No, New York was special.
Yeah.
So.
See, Greg, watch it over there.
Well, hey, Ken, we appreciate you coming on. We'll have to get your address because we always give our guests a gift, and we'll mail you some swag.
There you
and
go.
we got to let our people know that The merch is in. Everybody needs to follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, all that stuff, and especially Spotify, because it helps channel, helps us
build this and get this word out. So you can, if you're not following us, follow us, get in there, say some comments. If you have a thing there too, put us on there too, and show us around, and we show you guys around here too. And that's what it's about. And follow us on Beer League Live, and also too, our website's coming. It's coming soon. It's going to be coming, and
it's going to be real nice.
Yeah,
Clark.
it's going to be really, really cool. And Sarah, again, love you, Sarah. You're doing such a great job with this, and it's going to be so much fun here with this thing, and it's going. And we got that event coming up. We got the Wish Cup.
The Wish Cup Memorial Day weekend, the Roller Nationals.
There we go, Nationals Elites.
Yeah, the elite roller hockey people.
There you go, Ken. Exactly. So, hey, again, thank you, brother. Thank you,
We'll
Ken.
put a link.
Great questions.
We'll put a link to your book on the show notes.
Yeah.
And man, thank you for writing that book. I really enjoyed that read, and
Appreciate that.
it's a good primer. And now that you guys are kind of out of it, it's always sometimes people are in the midst of it, and they got to pull their punches,
and they got
that.
blinders on too until it's all over.
We love the exit interviews.
Yeah, we love it. Love
Yes.
it. Well, Ken, thank you so much again for everything. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Tell Gene, thank you so much again. Great book. And thank you again for everybody. And everyone out there in podcast land, follow us on Spotify, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and we're ready to go. Again, thank you, everybody. Beer League. Peace.